You're listening to LA40 with Katerina Kozayas, only on LA Talk Radio.
All right, Los Angeles, we are back. I am back. I've been MIA the last 3 weeks, so it is really good to be back in studio here at LA Talk Radio. I am your radio show host, Katerina Kozayas, and you are watching LA40. This is the show where we typically delve into all things life after 40.
Uh-oh.
What the heck does that mean? I know, that's why you tune in. And today we're going to be delving into a topic that is very relevant for a lot of people. Parenting, politics, and porn. That's right, we are living in an era where every 7-year-old has a smartphone. And, you know, kids are being exposed to things earlier and earlier. I kid you not, on the heels of a friend's 8-year-old coming into the house last week saying, "Hey, Mommy, I've been looking at pictures of a blowjob. What is that?" I thought, wow, okay, we're going to tackle
Merry
this
Christmas.
topic. So shifted a few things around, and we're gonna get into things today. If you're a parent, even if you're not, you're going to want to stay tuned because there's going to be a kid in your life, and we have a fun panel put together. We're going to delve into all things that have to do with the realities that kids are living today, especially on the heels of the tragic shootings yesterday.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get into that. But before we do, I'd like to invite you to understand who the heck I'm sitting here with today. So let's do that first. To my left, Dr. Angelica Hernandez. Dr. Hernandez is a doctor of psychology. She is a child advocate. She is also an incest survivor herself. She's the founder of the website 2 Moms, 2 Kids, where she, in fact, goes into a lot of this in a fun and witty way for parents to understand how do you talk to your kids. Angelica, you have 2 kids, 7 and 9?
Yes, and these conversations come up all the time.
I'm sure they do. All right, we're happy to have you here. To my right, Mr. Scotty Jordan.
Hello.
How are you?
So good. So
Absolutely. Scotty is the founder of a website called The Gentleman Tour. And this is a site that he put together that is intended to remind adults of the effect that they can have on young people in their lives. Scotty also is a big mentor and advocate of raising gentlemen. So, Scotty, although you're not a parent, you are around kids quite a bit.
I am. I'm also a son, which I think is important. But yeah, just to be around kids and to be there for them and to help them become gentlemen and answer these types of questions, I think is just so important. And I want to really just encourage other men like me to do the same. You know, I think it's needed.
Step it up, absolutely, absolutely. So thank you for being here with
Thank you
us
for having
today. And finally, not to be forgotten, directly to my left, we have Mr. Michael Levy. Michael is a Hollywood veteran. He was a former president and CEO of CBS Films. He himself has produced and directed over 16 films and has been in Hollywood, the trenches, for many, many years. You're also a professor, an adjunct professor at USC, is that correct?
Right. I teach a master's course in film, television, entertainment, media, and it deals from the 3 branches of the school, Annenberg School, cinema arts, as well as the Marshall School of Business.
Well, I'm happy to have you on today's panel because, like it or not, Hollywood very much influences what is exposed, the messaging and the visuals that society is getting, both domestically and internationally. So we're going to go there. Fourth, we have an invisible guest. We're going to have a caller join us a little bit later in the program. His name is Baron Cardenas, and Baron is a dad of 2 boys, also 7 and 9.
Okay.
I thought it important to have a dad's perspective and also somebody on the East Coast so that we're not just so centered into Los Angeles, says the Canadian, right? But I'm happy to have everyone here today. We can't ignore it. A bunch of men go out to play baseball on a Tuesday morning, and boom, boom, boom. And Angelica, what do you say to your kids?
You know what? We try really hard to not expose our children to media and violence and what's happening in the world. I mean, we just try and shelter them as much as we can. Why? Because I think that there's so much to be anxious about already, and those are such big global issues that it's almost impossible to guarantee your child a happy, healthy, safe life. And so my job as a parent is to really kind of be the buffer for them. And I try and keep them with realistic issues, coming to them, but they really come through me first. So I deliver the message, and I try to do it the best of my ability so they're not threatened, because they're so young and they're developing, their own minds and their own sense. And if I can present to them that they personally are safe, and that there are some really erratic people out there, whether that's ISIS or whether that's this man that came to the baseball field with an intent to do harm, that there are men and women that are unwell out there.
Now, there's men and women that are unwell out there, and so there has to be an element, though, of wanting to protect your kids. Scotty, you're taking a bunch of boys out to play baseball this weekend. Do you make a point of looking for an exit, of talking about this ahead of time, or does that just build fear? Where's the safety-fear balance?
Well, you know what? First of all, and I don't know what the story is with you and how you communicate with your kids, but we always talk about safety, and if something doesn't feel right, or if you're going to the bathroom, to always go in pairs, to kind of be conscious of your space without being paranoid, because we don't want to have a bunch of paranoid kids growing up and thinking that something horrible is about to happen to them. But it's really just about being conscious, being mindful, and being aware of the environment. If something feels weird, like my kids will see someone who's like that just kind of looks a little seedy, and they'll just get closer to me. It's almost like a natural sense of protection that you have, and then just reiterating that.
Right.
Yeah, and I try to I coach a boys basketball team, and they're 9 and 10, and I try to let them know from the beginning of every season that if there is ever anything that they want to talk to me about, whether it's girls, boys, relationship, whatever, that I'm open, But and to your point, Angelica, when you were talking about keeping your kids, keeping that, you don't want to really be open with certain things about them. My question would be, well, with technology the way it is, and it's so easy for them to find these things, whether it's at school. How do you keep them from doing that?
Well, they're not on CNN.com, and they don't get the news blasts. They also don't have access to their own telephones, so they don't get those little beeps every time we get a beep. And the conversation that takes place at school is often either exaggerated or it's undermined. And then they might say something to me, someone said, and then I'll say, yes, actually, what happened was, and then try to give them information. But what I'm not going to do is feed them information that they're not even aware of, because that just seems just too soon, too quick, too much.
Too much. Michael, you're a father and a grandfather. How have you seen, over the course of 40 years, a change in the awareness that kids have at that age, at 7, 8, 9?
Well, when my kids were born, they didn't have all the electronic devices that gave them input. They watched a certain amount of television they were allowed to watch. It wasn't at the news, it wasn't anything harmful. My grandchildren, they live on the computer and their phones.
How old are they?
There's 2 8s, 1 11, and 1 2.
It's that age, 3. Right? Yeah. Even a 3-year-old probably can navigate.
He plays the computer better than I can. And the phone is like a whiz. And the problem is you don't know what they're watching.
Yeah. Right.
And so, there should be governors on certain, if you give your kid, it's like a car. You put a governor on a car, it can't go so fast. But if you can put a governor on their phones, that only allow a certain amount of information to come through.
And I know that there must be, I'm not a parent, so I'm not familiar. But if you happen to know, I know that there are some apps or some mobile devices physically you can put on the phones. I believe that there must be. A reminder, and I forgot to mention this at the top of the program, we would love for you to get involved in this conversation.
Call us.
So call us, join us if you'd like. You can do that by reaching us at 818-570-5085. That's 818-570-5085. Now, how about just going back to reality, Kathy Griffin? has been in the news and battling with Mr. Trump, right? With President Trump, I should say. That picture, the beheading, she's holding it up. Did your kids see that?
Hell no. No. I mean, I think she went too far, personally. My kids don't like Trump, and they'll say, why doesn't someone just kill him?
Oh
And I'm
my
like,
gosh.
well, that is not the answer.
Right.
But they're like thinking, like, just get rid of him. Like, can't you do something? And I said, you know what? Sometimes, we did something, and people voted, and then people didn't vote, and that's why we have what we have. So we have to be able to tolerate people that are different than us. We have to tolerate politics and things that even go against us. Listen, I'm a lesbian with 2 children. I'm married to a woman, and I'm a Mexican. My mother was an immigrant. So
And you're a redhead.
Yeah, and listen, I'm I'm who Trump hates, and how do I communicate that to my kids? Again, there are people that have different perspective, and they're not our friends, and we don't hang out with them, and we don't get our energy and ourselves sucked
Into
out
that
by
negativity,
that person.
right? Speaking of negativity, bullying. How do you deal with bullying, Scotty?
I'm so glad you asked me this, because on my team, every kid's different. Actually, one of the kids, he's a foster kid, and he's had a really rough life so far, and he's a little different than the other kids. And I noticed right from the beginning, they reacted and they treated him differently. They bullied him because he is so different.
Wow.
And so right away, if there's one thing that makes me upset and angry, it's when other people treat others different, because they look different, sound different, act different. And so right away, I let them know that this will not be tolerated. We will not have this on this basketball team. But I notice that those kids that do bully are usually the ones who need the love the most.
Absolutely.
Because they're missing that from their home or whatever. And so then they feel better, they feel powerful when they put others down. So as angry as I get at them, I also need to understand that they need me, and they need love and support, instead of me just yelling at them and forcing them to run laps or whatever. I really want to, I really want to, number one, let them know that that's not right, and number two, get a little deeper and show them the love that I know they're missing. And so that's really big for me, and it's something I really try to do with my boys.
And you do that with your boys, and I see that through some of your material, which is why I was so happy that you were on our program. Michael, to Scotty's point, especially boys, right? They're grown up to see, the guy jumping into the room doing 3 backflips with 4 guns. Has Hollywood? I mean, where does the filter end? Do we just, as a society, keep wanting more and more and more?
It's about money. It's about making money.
Amen. The truth.
There's the answer.
Wow.
And it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But you have a desensitized audience
Yes.
today. The difference is that killing a guy on television and killing a person in real life doesn't seem to be separated.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what hasn't even separated is we had the tragedy in Virginia, and then within an hour we had the UPS guy up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And this is just wow.
I think the access, part of it is the access to weapons. Like in the old days, you would fight, you fist fight, I mean, that's kind of the extent of it. And now, we have gangs being initiated by drive-by shootings. We have, the stakes are higher, and the emotional, and that goes back into pornography. I mean, we're going to talk about
we're going to get there too.
And masculine, perspectives of masculinity versus femininity, and how we see that masculinity wins and takes and grabs and greed, and in truth, where's the balance? We can't live our lives again like destroying other people because we are hurt.
Have you seen Wonder Woman?
I have seen Wonder Woman.
What'd you
yes.
think?
I thought it was really awesome and amazing and empowering. It was like that version of strong women, and I loved it. Were there some things that were a little too graphic and gruesome for my kids? Yes, they got scared. Because again, I don't know, I just have sensitive kids, and we don't watch that stuff, and I don't, and I'm a Marine, okay, I was trained to kill, but kill nicely. No, just kidding. But seriously, but putting things in perspective like that. The desensitization, I think, is what is most obvious these days, because people just want more and more and more graphic and more violent and bloodier, and it's harsh. There's a harshness to it.
We're forgetting telling stories. We don't tell stories anymore. We just show images.
Yeah.
and more violent or more action or whatever they are, they seem to be more. And it's not just the millennials either.
No.
It's across the board.
It
Yes.
really is. We're going to invite Barron to call in if he's listening, because I'd like to get his
Two
perspective
boys.
on this issue. My question to him, if he's listening, and maybe he can answer when he calls in. My question to you as well is, do we speak differently to boys and girls? Are we still doing that the
I
way we
hope
used to in the
not.
1950s?
Do we
You have
still?
one
Yes.
of each.
Yeah, I have one of each.
Okay.
I mean, what I want to be able to do, my daughter wants her ears pierced.
Yeah.
I told my wife, if she gets her ears pierced, then he has the option of piercing his ears, you know?
It's fair is
But
fair.
it doesn't make, you know,
Yeah.
but no, but and we have to let go of that stuff. I mean,
Mm.
I don't want to be telling my son, I want to tell my son when he goes away to college to be a responsible human being, to if he's going to drink responsibly, to be an upstanding citizen. If he sees his buddies kind of, you know, narrowing or focusing on a girl who's drunk, you know, that could be his sister. So he has a responsibility to say, hey guys, let's leave her alone, man. Let's take her home. Let's, you know, instead of just watching horrible things happen.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell my daughter the same thing. Hey, listen, we have a responsibility. Be wise, be conscious, be da-da-da. But we don't participate in that. And you don't just because you're a boy, like the phrase, boys will be boys, that makes me cringe.
Locker room talk.
Yeah.
But they are different.
Okay.
They are different. Men are not as deeply involved even in their conversations.
Sure.
It deals with, you know, it's. But women get into other factors when they gather together. They get into more personal and
Very
deeper.
emotional, yeah.
Okay.
Guys,
Guys don't want to show
superficial.
that to other guys,
True.
even their buddies,
mhm.
and that's the big difference.
But again, can't we change that if we change some of the stories coming out of Hollywood?
I don't know if it's the stories out of Hollywood. I think it's it's really in the parenting.
Hmm.
I believe that it's not about Hollywood at all. It's about
Speaking
the
speaking
parenting.
speaking of parenting, Scotty, we got a call coming in,
Perfect.
and then I'll let you jump in on that. LA Talk Radio. Good morning.
Hey, I'm calling in.
Hi, yes,
Am I
Barron.
Barron?
Thank you. Yeah, we were talking about you. I was letting our audience know that we've got a dad calling in, which is great. Thanks for calling in.
Hello, hello.
So, Barron, you have two boys, ages 7 and 9. And, you know, we're talking a little bit of, you know, the realities that kids are dealing with earlier and earlier. Do your kids have cell phones?
No, I can't see them using that responsibly right now.
Mm.
Not because they won't do it, but they won't
Amen.
know how to manage it.
Are they dealing with, you know, and actually Angelica made a good point earlier that, you know, we have to, as a society, try and keep their innocence as long as we can. I'm sure they're dealing with, you know, regular things that boys deal with, bullying at school or being called a name or being left out feeling sad. But are they aware of what's happening politically with the environment that we're living in, with the divisiveness that seems to be grasping this country these days? Do they come home with any of those questions to you?
No, very much so. I mean, they're not immune to it. They see it at school, but they also, I mean, they catch news here and there like everybody else. So they question it, you know. And I think it comes down to what you teach them. You know, I haven't reached the point where they're doing things on their own without my supervision. So I'm able to still somewhat control the environment that they're in. So it always comes down to the way that you brought them up all along. So we always teach. Trying to understand why people do things that they do, you know, as opposed to just reacting. We want to understand why they did it, and that's because they're also very close in age. So I need to make sure that they don't lash out to each other as boys normally do. So we encourage, you know, using their language, using their vocal skills, not doing the old man up, you know, and just deal with it, but actually encouraging to speak and say, this is why I'm feeling this way, or why I'm frustrated, or why I'm mad.
One thing
So
that-
I translate that to what they see in the political world as well.
Barron, my name's Angelica. Greetings. My question to you is,
Hey.
because I've seen my children go to other people's houses, their friends' houses, for a play date, and things are different in other people's houses, and they have different
Sure.
rules and different ideas and different politics. So when we think about monitoring our children, we definitely can't control other parents' language or, you know, actions. We can do the best we can to know them, but, you know, we are stuck with that reality too. So I was just wondering how you deal with that.
No, you definitely can't protect forever. I mean, we can't hover over them forever. But I think that all of us, including myself, and I'm sure you guys, were still with certain values in your home.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you left your home, whether it was for 5 minutes or 5 years, you took those values with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think our job as a parent is to instill values. And then what they do with those values, it's really what makes the difference between the decisions that one person makes or the other.
Versus the other.
You know,
Do you,
so-
Baron, out of
so-
curiosity, do you let your kids sleep over?
No, not yet. They're 7 and 9. They're not really at the point where they can do that. The only place is maybe with their cousins. You know, my brother and his children, which we share the same values.
What is your reasoning behind that? Because I have my own reasoning about why I wouldn't let such young children spend the night at their friend's house. But what is your reasoning as a father?
I'm selfish. I like to have them around. Let's start with that.
All right, I like it.
I feel very comfortable every night knowing that they're in my house. I feel very comfortable going in and checking up on them, and just making sure they're sleeping. I don't know, but really it's because I feel that they're not really at the point in their life yet where they have experienced enough to know how to react and how to vocalize all that back to me. But also, I don't know the other people as well. So
Thank you, sir.
I think it's more of a protective thing.
Amen. Thank you.
Now, in saying that, because I'm gonna switch it back over to you, Angelica, for a second. We're protective. Baron says, I trust him with my brother's family, but you yourself were a victim of incest.
Yes, that's true.
And so you can't necessarily rely on the family, right? Can you go there a little bit for me?
I guess, and Baron, I'm not going to make you paranoid here. I'm just telling you my experience. But one of my perpetrators was my brother, actually, an older brother who raped me at age 5 and had been sexually molesting me before that. And
Wow.
then a cousin who was, again, older, and he just kind of lured me away from the house and assaulted me. But so there, of course, we know who the perpetrators are. They're usually someone we know or someone on the periphery of our lives. So it's not that stranger. But those conversations, and we didn't get to that. Whether you talk to your children about safety in your body and no one gets to touch it, and boys are girls or boys, or whatever. Like none of that stuff. We have to have those conversations. So I try to use very real people, and I will say stuff like, it's not okay for Uncle Mark to touch you, and we love Uncle Mark, but just, and use real names so it's not like some freaky, creepy guy.
Right,
It's
it's going
our
to come out of the
family.
bushes, right?
But it really goes back. I mean, your kids are old enough now, but we rewind to having a sense of safety in your body and feeling comfortable to voice your opinion. That means saying no, you don't
Right.
want to hug grandma or grandpa, and we just shouldn't obligate our children to be affectionate. That's really an old school rule that we're supposed to respect. And grandma came from New York City and she needs a big hug and a kiss. Like, you don't force your kids to do that stuff. If it goes against what they want to do, that's an internal kind of barrier that we should respect and protect.
I agree, and I love you so much for sharing that. And Baron, how are you? I'm Scotty. I appreciate what you do for your kids. My father is actually in prison and has been there all my life. And so I liked what you said when you said that you talk to your kids and you tell them these things and you instill these values in them that they will remember as they get older. I mean, I remember being very young and I was getting introduced to drugs, alcohol, and my mom was very strict. And the first time she caught me, she explained to me that addiction is in my blood, and that she wanted to protect me just like you want to protect your kids. And so now that I'm 28 years old and I've been through some things, I always remember what she told me at that age. And I just appreciate that so much. So I think it's just so important. And again, I'm not a parent yet. I hope to soon be one. But I am a son who just am so grateful for her being honest. and her just letting me know like what is in our family history. And if I don't be careful, I could go down that path. And I think that just because she was honest and because she told me those things and didn't keep it from me, I am the man I am today. And so I'm just so grateful for that, and grateful for you, Baron, for what you do for your kids as well. So thank you.
Honesty and integrity.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I by the way, you mentioned the point a moment ago. I'm sorry, I'm not good with names.
Angelica.
The young lady. You mentioned a moment ago that that it was an old school rule that we teach our kids to automatically, be affectionate towards people that we are affectionate with, all right? And that's actually something that we caught on very early on. So we don't force our children to automatically hug and kiss anybody that they meet. They greet by the hand like we do, So you shake your hand and what have you, and you do that because that's actually a proper custom.
Yes.
But if they don't feel comfortable about it, we don't encourage it. We just let it go.
Good.
They don't feel comfortable for a reason.
Because you're a
Let it
confident
go.
parent. If you're not a confident parent, you make your kid, because it's a reflection of you. If your kid doesn't hug the kid, and we put our own shame and discomfort on our kids, and that's a bad idea.
Agreed. I like my kids to actually act like proper human beings. So, hey, hello, greet people, look them in the eye when they talk to them, these kind of things. But by the same token, though, we also teach them, because it's not just with adults, it's also with other children. We teach them that everybody has to have their own personal space. So when they're in class and, you have boys and there's little girls, a lot of, silly things can be turned into very big things, because they're used to messing around with their brother or their cousins, and then they go and do the same thing with a girl. It could be misconstrued to a totally different thing. So we're dealing with a whole different aspect of that as well, as parents to boys. So we're very, very, very aware of this, and make them understand that your hands are to be kept to yourself, not just with adults, but also with children. And then that way they also expect the same in return.
Absolutely.
And you're sort of
It's a
building that
reciprocal
barrier,
relationship.
right?
Absolutely.
Baron, last question for you. Your biggest challenge as a parent in 2017, what would you say that is?
Oh, man. That's a loaded question, right? Luckily, because my children are at an age right now where I'm able to lead by example, meaning that I can control things, at home, whatever we watch is things that I would deem appropriate for them to watch. So I'm also kind of filtering myself. I don't watch the news as it is. I haven't for years, because I think it's just depressing to watch that when you go to work and then come home and watch the news and then go to bed. You just have this vicious cycle, So that's my personal thing. So that was easy for me to not expose them to. But also in movies, you watch these violent movies, or you use violent language, or even music, where you hear, fun music that I like, but it may have the wrong kind of language to it. I think the biggest challenge to your question is filtering myself, so that what I feel is cool for me, I also need to understand that it has to be cool for them, because I am the example.
Set the tone.
Yeah. Set the tone, absolutely. Baron, thank you so much for your time, for calling in, for being supportive. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. I love it.
Keep doing what you're doing, sir. It's important.
Thank
You as well, Kathy.
All right, take care. Bye, Baron.
Bye-bye.
All right, so good guy there, right?
That's lovely, the way he thinks about his family and how aware he is. See, the problem is most parents are not aware. And they're very engrossed in the way they have to make a living, their obligations outside the home. And they're not really focused on inside the home as they should be.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
I'd say
That's so true. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but even at basketball practice, I see, or games, parents not even come.
Watching.
And it blows my mind, because me growing up, my parents were there. My mom was there with a cowbell, just ringing it, saying "Go Scott," and she was supportive. And I just remember that. And so now I see it as a coach. I see parents not even there. I see dads not even around, and it's painful to see. And then you see it in the kids.
Yeah, they just
and
want someone to notice.
Exactly, and so that's so true. That's so true.
I go to my granddaughter's soccer games, and it's funny how certain people show up, okay, and you see these other kids with their grandmothers taking care of them and doing things. There's no parental family structure as it used to be.
Yeah.
And that's what's got to be recreated. We can talk about the news, we can talk about everything else, but if you don't have a family structure, you don't have kids that are really understand what's happening.
But the difficulty is, and I just have to add a comment there, is society, the way it's set up, is just, it's driven us to a point where unfortunately, for most people's reality is that both parents have to work. I'm single person on my own, and I have a car insurance payment coming up. And they increased the rates on me. And I thought, well, I have a perfect driving record. Why just randomly increase the rates? And they said, oh, well, the state of California decided it was time for a rate increase, and we just filter that on through to you. And I thought, it's tough because the system keeps increasing and increasing and increasing the demands. And so it's tough to go back to that family unit sometimes when a family's reality is that both parents do have to work. And the child does come home to, like, I was very lucky. I came home to muffins and cupcakes and mom at home and, white picket fence. But a lot of people's reality isn't that. So how do we, as a community, come together?
That's the trick.
It's
It takes a village, Yeah, I mean, I think we have neighbors. We have an older woman who lets us use her pool. We bring her dinner. My kids run over there and bring, things to her. We knock on her. She is a widow, and she has extended her home to us, and we've extended our family to her. And she tells us all the time, I love you being here. And we do that with our next door neighbors. They have access to our home. If someone's not going to be home, we don't leave our kids alone, not even for a minute, but we always have someone watching each other. And I've told my kids that too, be aware that we have parents everywhere. And our friends' parents are your, you pay attention and be mindful of that, and know that the day you put a cigarette in your mouth, I'm going to know that.
It's interesting. Growing up, I grew up in Brooklyn. And it was neighborhoods. We don't have neighborhoods here. And the thing is, family watched after everybody's kid. Today, we build fences. There are fences built around homes and everything else to keep people out. And it's very hard to allow people in when that's the mentality.
We stay out on the street. I feel like we have a Rockefeller painting. Not Rockefeller, no. What's his name? Not Rockefeller. What's the painting? Rockwell.
Okay.
Thank you. Work with me, folks. Rockefeller. No, that's a totally different genre.
He paints differently.
Yeah, differently with money.
Everything is green.
Green. Yeah, that's right. But anyway, and it takes a village. And I want to be mindful of the other kid who's down the street. If you just take
Do you want to talk to your kids about sex before they hear about it from someone else? When is too early? Too early. When should you start?
The moment
Have you
they
gone
ask
there?
you, absolutely.
Okay.
The moment they ask me and they're curious, my kids know the names of their anatomy. They know, I tell them, hey, listen, I'll throw them a mirror. Here, do what you need to do. Look at your body. I want you to know your body. There are women who are my age, 46 years old, and have never seen their vagina. Literally, because they've been told it's gross and it's disgusting, and it's like that's down there, and I think you should know all parts of your body. And so absolutely, we talk about that. Do they talk about the details of sex? No, I don't give them that detail.
Not yet.
But where do babies come from? It's not the stork anymore, folks.
Interesting. Scotty,
now
what do
you
you
tell me?
Yeah. Shoot. You just killed it for us. Now
Sorry.
you're going to tell us
I'm
there's
so
no
sorry,
Santa
Michael.
Claus.
That's
Scotty,
terrible.
you're dealing with kids and you're a basketball coach. So the boys have to come to you and talk about girls.
We do talk
Right?
about girls pretty often.
Okay.
Pretty often. And again, I think that
We're great, that's why.
that comes. You are very
We are
great.
great.
But I think that comes with trust, and that's the first thing that I've learned with coaching boys or just having any type of influence with them is like you have to build that trust. They have to know that you care about them. So yeah, like I said, I just try to be open with them and let them know, hey, if there's ever anything you want to talk about, you can talk to me about that. So just the other day, I trained one of them. And he was just saying that there's a girl he likes, this and that, and we just kind of talked about it. I was just there for him to listen. I think that's important.
Judgment.
Exactly, no judgment. I just want to listen and be whatever he needs me to be in that moment. And to y'all's point about, the community and it takes a village, it does. But besides parents, which are so important and so valuable, I think it's also about other men, other mentors. Like, for example, when I was a teenager, my mom would tell me something, I'd be like, yeah, okay, Mom, okay, I don't want to talk to you about that. But the minute somebody older, whether an older basketball player who
You
I
were
looked
there.
up to came to me and said, hey, I was all ears. I was listening to every word he said. And so I think besides family, besides that, it does take a village like men like me who can be there for other young kids and just say, like, help them with whatever it is. And that's why I'm so big on this, y'all.
Yeah.
So big on just being there and just just being open to whatever it is they want to talk about, because I think kids need that more than ever.
Trust is number one, right?
Number one.
That's the one word. If you look at love, we can use it. But if you trust first, then everything else follows.
Amen.
So true.
Yeah. Good stuff. The next question, I want to go a little bit there because we do have Mr. Hollywood here with us today.
Yes, I'm Mr.
Hollywood often glamorizes sexual exploitation with movies like Pretty Woman. And you see, you know, the hooker on the street who turns into Cinderella and gets the guy at the end of the day. Are we sending a message, maybe not with that particular example, but are we sending a message to girls that, you know, you have to be sexy, you have to be pretty, you have to be, and how much is this world of social media that we're living in taking that to an extreme? Because now I have to put the filter on my face so that I don't have this line showing, because heaven forbid I'm 40 and have a laugh line, right? So imagine what this is doing to somebody that is impressionable at the age of 14. What do we think of society's social media-ness?
I think one of the things that is our society, we glamorize too much. We have beauty contests. We have things that are competitive between men and women. And one of the things, it's not just the entertainment business. It happens in the schools. It happens in small community gatherings. It happens into churches. It really needs a different approach to thinking about trust, okay, and promiscuity. Today, the millennials, I read an article that most millennials, okay, are not interested in intimacy. They're interested in sexual gratification.
It's scary.
Wow.
And then there was this kid interviewed that basically said, I just had sex and now I'm going to go hang out with my friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the point is, we've lost that human touch,
Yes.
that individual need, okay, to be cared with and cared for and caring.
I just spoke to a woman yesterday I met who's 28 years old. She's moving to Denver because she wants to date men that are like not on skateboards and have, you know, dreadlocks, or that come to pick her up on a date, you know, and want to split an $18 meal, you know. She's like, I'm sick of this. I'm leaving to Denver. And she was telling her father, you know, something about how just horrible the date went. And the father said, you know, I used to go in the snow like 2 miles to the payphone to talk to your mother. Like, where is the investment?
But how can there be an investment when everything is so immediate? I immediately swipe left. I immediately hire my Uber. I immediately have the answer to any question in the world I could possibly think of.
Some things you have to wait for. And I think relationships you build, friendships you build. All those friends that you have on that app, they're not your friends. You're not going to divulge your deepest, darkest. You know, it's just a face. It's just like you have to build those relationships and maintain them and be vulnerable. That's what builds relationships. That's what builds intimacy. Sex is sex. That's easy.
Do you know, it's I'm a mentor. I have a lot of people that have worked for me and even today. And I find that's missing.
Mentorship.
Mentorship between people, and that's what you do, basically.
Amen.
You're mentoring.
Yeah.
And we don't find that in the communities any longer. It seems to be a very rare disease that you will go and take your time to help other people learn.
Yeah. But it comes down to, when you're talking even about beauty, and that whole idea of beauty is what we value. And I say we value relationships, we value the simpler things in life. If I'm racing to get the biggest house with the most marble, you know, those are all very superficial desires and wants. Let's like bring it down, let's tone it down, and let's extend ourselves to our neighborhood children. Let's be available to our families. But if you're always racing to get the bigger, better, best thing, then like you're just going to exhaust yourself and die in the end with no real intimacy, no real relationships.
I deal with there's an organization called Out of the Box for Babies, and it takes from 8 weeks through 5 years. And it's training the parents. You can't do it without the parents. It's not like watching television and everything else.
Active.
It's learning play. And what they basically do is take children and socialize them. Because the most important thing is not separating.
It's touch and physical.
Let them share toys and bring in carrots and share those things. It's about sharing the self. And this is an amazing, it's online, otbae.com.
Incredible.
And it really is wonderful for parents, and your parents have to do the exercises an hour a day.
Well, the funny thing is that we have to teach parents to play. When you know, exactly when we're kids, we get to play, and then we forget that. And then we have this role of, I'm the parent, you're the child, instead of getting down on your knees and playing with them and being with them and not on your phone. Put your phone away. I don't talk on the phone when I'm with my kids. If I'm in the car, there's no, these are magical times for you to have conversation, to be engaged with your kids, and not to be obsessed with your telephone.
That's telephone, and you brought up a point earlier just about how the cell phone it's taken over things, and so you're right. I looked over a couple weeks ago. We were in a practice, and one of my boys was on the bench, and he was on his cell phone in the middle of a practice, and it blew my mind because just how far things have come, and I think that it's the parents that are teaching them that by them doing it themselves. So you're right. Coming from a son, coming from a coach who deals with kids, it's like these kids learn this from us, from you, as a parent. And so we really have to watch, what we do. So I love that you do that.
Yeah.
Love that you do that.
Wrapping up, because we're getting close to the top of the hour, Dr. Angelica Hernandez, some tips for parents in 2017. What do you think they should be aware of, or something that they should consciously be aware of? Yes.
Well, first of all, I think screen time is really important to limit. And things like when we go out to dinner, you're not on your phone, you put things away, but you have to be the leader in this. And then again, having open conversations with your kids about what they're exposed to and what they might run into, and just try to the best of your ability to be a filter so that you give them accurate information, but no real graphic details, because nobody needs that. And I love this panel. I love what everyone had to say. I think the sharing aspect and the mentorship is what is going to help us become a better society if we can go back to the basics.
Yes, back to the basics is so important. Michael, any thoughts as a parent, as a grandparent of kids this age?
Yeah, one of the things I do think is really important is awareness. You have to be aware of what your children and grandchildren are doing. A lot of people don't find the time to be aware.
And I think a lot of people use the iPad as a babysitter, right?
Totally
at
is.
what cost?
So true. So true.
And they're not involved. He lets them do what they want to do, and feeling he's okay. He's playing with his little computer. He's playing with his phone. Whatever he's playing with or she's playing with, that's not the object of creating family connection.
Right. Yeah. And family connection is important. Scotty knows that. Scotty, any last words?
Family connection is everything. I'm just so grateful that I grew up in a time where cell phones really weren't around, because my mom loved me so much and was there for me, and I just, as a son who sees this with kids, it's like, man, these kids need us as parents, as mentors, as guys who can just forget about themselves and really just give back. And I think that's so important. So
if people want to connect with you, Scotty, where can they find you?
Yeah, Instagram at The Gentle Mentor or thegentlmentor.com. That's where.
Yeah, Scotty's got some good blogs, some good posts, some good advice for people out there that may be mentoring kids. It's important information. Dr. Angelica Hernandez, where can we find you?
You can find me at twomomstwokids.com on Facebook and Instagram as well.
All right, and Michael?
I have a website called michael@mlevyenterprises.com.
Michael at mlevyenterprises.com. Fantastic. Well, I thank all three of you for being here. These are important conversations to have, at least to help create a little bit of awareness. And, we try to touch on everything. We had an episode a couple months back called, "Oh, shit, I'm a parent now." Because, one day you wake up and you're partying in college, and the next day you wake up and your kids are going off to college. But I did have a few people, excuse me, write in and they said, well, what if you're not a parent? So for those of you who may not be parents yet, don't worry. Coming up in July, we're going to be having an episode called, "Oh Shit, I Am Still Not a Parent." And that one's going to be for you. We're going to be talking fertility. We're going to be talking about all things pertaining to having kids or not having kids, and whether or not society deems it okay. Next week's episode, you're going to want to tune in for, because we are going to be talking about the mental strength that it takes to get over being diagnosed with a critical illness and or becoming disabled. We're going to have some really powerful guests on next week's program, and the process and the thought behind how the heck do you get up in the morning after something that you don't want to hear. So tune in for that. I'm your host, Katerina Kazayas. This was LA40. We love being here. Thank you for tuning in with us on LA Talk Radio. We will see you again next Thursday. Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Oh, I gotta find the closing music. Hang tight. All right. Bye-bye.
You're listening to LA40 with Katerina Kazayas, only on LA Talk Radio.